Welcome to The Explainer. You know, there are some places on Earth with names that just send a shiver down your spine. Today, we're going to one of them, a place that's as hauntingly beautiful as its name is forbidding.
All right, let's just jump right in. Look at this thing, a colossal shipwreck literally being eaten by the sand. It kind of gives you a clue why old Portuguese sailors call this coastline the gates to hell. So what's the story here? How did this strip of land in Namibia get such an infamous reputation?
Okay, first things first, let's get our bearings. We need to understand where we are and what makes this coast so legendary and so deadly. So here we are on the map, and what you see right away is just how remote this place is. It's this long, lonely ribbon of coastline, squeezed between the freezing cold Atlantic Ocean on one side and the huge, unforgiving Namib Desert on the other. You're really out there. And it wasn't just the sailors. The local sand people, they had a name for it that translates to the land God made in anger. Wow. That phrase, it just perfectly captures that feeling of total, raw desolation that hangs over this whole place. So, that's the big question, right? What makes this one particular stretch of coast so unbelievably dangerous? What's the secret sauce that turned it into, well, nature's perfect trap?
Well, it all boils down to this really wild, brutal collision of forces. See, it's not just a desert, and it's not just a stormy sea. It's the unique way these two extremes slam into each other. It's like a perfect storm of geography that creates this incredibly dangerous zone.
And these pictures, they just show it perfectly. On one side, you've got these gigantic sand dunes from the oldest desert in the world, literally spilling into the ocean. But then you take a few steps inland and nothing. Just cracked, barren earth with zero first water. It's the ultimate trap, a sea with nowhere to land safely and a desert with not a drop of water to drink.
And as if the desert wasn't bad enough, the ocean itself is just this constant, violent enemy. You've got this brutal, heavy surf and totally unpredictable crosscurrents. They're churned up by the freezing Benguela current that comes all the way up from Antarctica. For any ship, big or small, trying to navigate this is an absolute nightmare.
Okay, so you've got the desert, you've got the psychocurrents, but here's the final piece of the puzzle, the knockout blow. A thick, disorienting sea fog that just smothers the coast for most of the year. So, picture it. You're a sailor, you can't see a thing, and these currents you can't even see are just pushing you right onto the shore. It was a trap with almost no way out.
And the result of this perfect, natural trap? Well, it's written all over the landscape. For centuries, this coast has been one thing above all else: a graveyard for ships.
We're talking hundreds and hundreds of ships. The estimate is over 500 over the centuries have wrecked right here. The whole coastline is just littered with their skeletons. You can find everything from old wooden sailing ships to modern steel boats, all just slowly rusting away, being reclaimed by the salt and sand.
But think about this. What if you survived the shipwreck? What if you actually made it to shore? You might think you're saved, but you're not. An even worse fate was waiting. You're stranded, with hundreds of miles of empty, waterless desert between you and, well, anything, any hope of being rescued.
And that's how the coast got its modern name. It wasn't just the skeletons of the ships. It was also the bleached bones of whales and seals that washed up on the beach. It created this grim, macabre landscape of bone and rotting wood, the Skeleton Coast.
But here's where this story of death and desolation takes a really surprising turn.
After everything we've just talked about, the shipwrecks, the endless desert, a name like the land God made in anger, you'd think this place has to be completely empty, right? Devoid of life? Not even close. This is the coast's biggest secret. Because against all the odds, this hostile, brutal environment is actually teeming with life.
So how is that even possible? Well, remember those cold ocean currents that make the deadly fog? It turns out they're the key. They are packed with nutrients, and that fuels an incredibly rich marine ecosystem, which in turn supports one of the biggest colonies of Cape fur seals on the planet. We're talking hundreds of thousands of them, just thriving, right there on the edge of a desert. And it's not just the seals. That fog, the same fog that doomed all those ships, it's a lifeline. It rolls inland every day, bringing just enough moisture to support a whole food chain. You've got little insects, and then things that eat them, all the way up to predators like jackals, hyenas, and, get this, even a special population of desert-adapted lions.
And here's a perfect example of how clever life has to be to make it here. This is the Namaqua chameleon. Now you'd think it changes color to hide, right? Nope, it's for temperature control. In the cold mornings, it turns almost black to soak up the sun's heat. Then, in the scorching afternoon, it turns pale white to reflect it. It's just genius.
And all of this leads us to the central, beautiful paradox of the Skeleton Coast.
It's this. The very same things that make this a graveyard for humans are exactly what make it a sanctuary for wildlife. The fog, the currents, the remoteness, all the stuff that wrecked ships and stranded sailors, that's what protects the animals. It creates an isolation where they can thrive. So it's an end for human ambitions, but it's a thriving beginning for generations of animals.
So, here's the big takeaway. The Skeleton Coast. It's not a wasteland at all. It's a complex, deeply interconnected, and surprisingly vibrant ecosystem. And I mean, just look at this picture. These flocks of flamingos, this splash of brilliant pink against the tan desert, it's just a place of incredible, stark beauty.
So in the end, the Skeleton Coast really makes you think, doesn't it? It challenges how we see things. Is it just a place of endings, defined by the ships and the lives that were lost? Or is it something else, a powerful testament to new beginnings? Proof that life will always find a way, even in the harshest, most unexpected places on Earth.